A lot of people are going to die. A lot of kids are going to suffer. But that's stuff we already know, because Mississippi is dead last in child health care, dead last in women health care, dead last in general health care. 48th in education. We know that they're going to do bad, and we know people are going to die. How did we get here?
NANI?
Dynamite! All right, clap it. We back. We loving it. If you're watching this right now, you're probably watching this on YouTube, and I want to invite you to go to Twitch. There's the link right there. It just popped up in the chat on the screen. Hit the Twitch button. Links in the description and all that good stuff. Go follow us on Twitch. We could use your support. I know I always ask y'all to like, share, and subscribe on this platform, but let's try something new. Maybe y'all like Twitch more. We're live once a week. God forbid I don't show consistency, though. It's going to be from now on Tuesday. Very strict about that Tuesday. But today we're talking about the Mississippi water crisis. And there's a lot of things that go into this. I'm going to be quite frank. There's a lot of things that go into this. There's a part of me that feels sympathy and empathy for the poor socioeconomic people that were duped into believing that this crisis was just an act of God. It couldn't have been avoided. Furthermore, there's also a level of aggression for the group of people who just aren't educated enough to know better. But then when you look at the stats of the state of Mississippi, you will slowly but surely try to understand what every other state is trying to do when it comes to their people, which is lull them into a false sense of security and keep them more angry about non-factor racial issues and social issues in the country than issues that actually matter that could actually save your life, like drinking water. So with that being said, let's talk about the Mississippi water crisis.
This morning, people in Jackson, Mississippi are being told to expect little or no water for an undetermined amount of time. Shoppers raced to this Walmart for bottled water last night, only to find empty shelves. All Jackson public schools are switching to virtual learning indefinitely, and the lieutenant governor says, "Our understanding is the water and sewer system serving 250,000 citizens of the state and numerous businesses is at the brink of collapsing."
It means the city cannot produce enough water to fight fires, to reliably flush toilets.
In some parts of the city, the fire department is finding no water in fire hydrants.
All of our units have 500 gallons of water on it, and the guys can use that water to sustain a lot of incidents with just that.
The warnings come after a pump at the city's troubled water treatment facility was damaged. The governor says he was told last week that a failure was possible.
It was a near certainty that Jackson would fail to produce running water sometime in the next several weeks or months. Unfortunately, that failure appears to have begun today.
Jackson residents have been under boil water notices since last month, when water samples found harmful contaminant levels. The mayor blames issues at the city's water and sewage plants on staffing shortages and decades of deferred maintenance. And now, flooding from the Pearl River is making the problem even worse.
And because of the river water that is coming into the plant, we have to change the way we treat the water, which consequently reduces the tank levels.
So the governor has now called in the National Guard to help distribute bottled water.
Okay. The one is just the hypocrisy of the situation. You heard it at the end. This guy has put off repairing water pumps and deferring people's livelihood. So whether you know it or not, prior to this issue, Jackson, Mississippi, the capital of Mississippi, if I'm correct, check my econ class or history class, whatever the fuck that class, government class, has no drinkable water. And this is a state that has been ran notoriously by Republicans and notoriously have done everything in their power to make sure that bills Like the infrastructure law don't go into place. But it goes deeper than that, because where there's a problem here, you could see other problems elsewhere, as this TikToker tells us.
Earlier today, I saw a statement from the governor of Mississippi in which he declared that the water supply of the state's capital city of Jackson was not fit for human consumption. And seeing him reminded me of an interview I saw him do a few months ago discussing the then pending overturn of Roe v. Wade. And he was asked what the state's plan was to help these moms who couldn't afford to have a kid but were being forced to do so. And his answer was pretty interesting.
Governor, you and I have talked about this before, but Mississippi, as you know, has the highest rate of infant mortality in the United States. You have the highest rate of child poverty in the United States. Your state has no guaranteed maternity leave that's paid. The legislature in Mississippi just rejected extending postpartum Medicaid coverage. Your foster care system is also the subject of a long-running federal lawsuit over its failure to protect children from abuse. You and I have had this conversation before. I hear you. You say you want to do more to support mothers and children, but you've been in state government since 2004. You were the state treasurer, then you were the lieutenant governor, now you're the governor. Based on the track record of the state of Mississippi, why should any of these girls or moms believe you?
Well, look, as I've told you before, and I'll tell you again, the reality is that when I got elected governor, my very first speech in my inaugural address, I was very clear that I believe in my heart that I was elected not to try to hide our problems, but to try to fix our problems. We have a long history of poor health outcomes. It's due in large part to poverty, and so we are focusing every day on fixing the challenges that are before us. When you talk about things, when you talk about these young ladies, the best thing we can do for them is to provide and improve educational opportunities for them. And we've worked extremely hard in our state to do that. We've got to continue to work to provide workforce opportunities, jobs for these individuals, but to do.
So, workforce, education, job, poverty, all those things, healthcare, all those things. He wants to work on those things, right? Right? Let's look at how well Mississippi's doing on improving those things. In healthcare, they rank 50th, dead last. In education, they're 7 from the bottom. In the economy, 49, they're 1 from the bottom. Infrastructure, the thing that could have helped them avoid this water crisis, in the gutter. Opportunity, 44, 6 from the gutter. Fiscal stability, 41%, 41 out of 50. Crime and natural environment. The average income or median income there is $24,000. I make that in less than 3 months. Easily. Less than 6 weeks probably. 4, 8. Yeah. And easily in about like 6 weeks. That's the median income for the year, $24,000. College educated, 32% of the population, and they have state universities there. Population of nearly 3 million. They're not interested in making sure their people are sufficient. They're interested in making sure their people are obedient. And the best way to keep people obedient is keep them in a constant state of survival, because they don't have the strength to fight you. But let's look at some stuff that the governor, remember, that's the governor. Show his face. Let people know. That's the governor who's doing the best he can to make sure that we can get drinking water to Mississippi. Let's see how he's been voting in the past. Let's see if he's really been working hard to do that. Well, he definitely didn't want people who served their time in jail and actually, they completed their punishment and they should no longer be deemed criminals. He didn't want those people voting in because, they vote Democratic. Prohibit COVID vaccine mandates. He wants to make sure our health systems are up to speed, but he prohibits COVID vaccine mandates. There was never any point that this vaccine was going to be mandated. It is mandated for people who work in public federal buildings. But to make this a state issue, a political issue, a health issue, after 1 million plus people died in America, is rubbish. Requires gender pay equity. That's great. You got to establish Outdoor Steward Act. Okay. Specify freestanding. You'll give him credit for the things that he does correctly. Reducing income. What's this? Prohibit teaching the topic known as critical race theory. Critical race theory might have helped these people avoid this situation, because you want to know something interesting about where that reservoir was built? I don't know if you caught that. If you caught where that reservoir was built. That reservoir was built in a section of Jackson, Mississippi, which is the biggest hub of Democratic people in America. Meaning more Democrats live in Jackson, Mississippi, but because of the gerrymandering, because of the inability for the Democratic Party to put any money towards the Mississippi state in an effort to try and win that state or even attempt to run in the state, you'll never see it. But that water facility pump line runs in the below the tracks, if you get my drift. And that's why it hasn't been getting any resources. That's why it hasn't been getting any assistance, because that part of town is below the tracks. And when something is below the tracks, why would they put money towards that? Why would they put infrastructure towards that? Why would they pay to guarantee the livelihoods of people who don't look like them, people who don't act like them? Do you think any of these people are struggling for water on the screen? I don't think so. Because the officials in Flint, Michigan definitely weren't scraggling for water. But these people will. These people will. Their constituents will. And there's literally nothing anyone can do about it. But besides the fact that he didn't vote on the infrastructure bill, right? The one that Biden was signing. No Republicans signed on it. No legislators signed on it. Right? So let's go here. The governor is telling you not to drink the water, he said. Reeves, Republican who has refused to prioritize upgrading Jackson's failing infrastructure, fucking Mike's in the way, infrastructure through his 2 years in office, declared a state of emergency, announcing we need to provide water to up to 180,000 people for an unknown period of time. It's maddening. But let's look at the stats, shall we? We got the facts. Here's how Mississippi congressional delegation voted on the infrastructure bill. Republican Trent Kelly, no. Benny Thomason, yes. He's a Democrat. Michael Guess, no. Stephen Pelosi, no. Roger Wicker, yes. Republican. Cindy Hyde Smith, no. Republican. But yet they're baffled. They're shocked. Well, how could this be happening to us? Right? And I'll tell you what's going to end up being the fall in here. A lot of people are going to die. A lot of kids are going to suffer. But that's stuff we already know, because Mississippi is dead last in child health care, dead last in women health care, dead last in general health care. 48th in education. We know that they're going to do bad, and we know people are going to die. How did we get here? Because the water plants that were built by our government using government money, taxes that we pay money towards, were sold off to be maintained by private companies. And private companies do not have a vested interest in quality. They have a priority in making money. And if making money means they have to skip out on maintenance, that isn't the irony of the situation, right? The irony of the situation. Hey, government, we know you can't afford to do this anymore. So let us, a private company, do it for you. In the process of us doing this, we're going to make some cuts because these aren't things we need to do anymore. The government, I think it's important that we do that. Well, we're not. And because you've already sold it to us and there's nothing you can do to force our hands because that's part of the contract, and also you'll have to buy it back from us because that's also part of the clause, there's nothing you can really say or do to us. So we'll continue to degrade this system until there's absolutely nothing you can do to save your people. And the mind-boggling part about this is this wasn't even a major flood. This didn't even rank top 10 worst floods in Mississippi. This was just a rainy day, and it was enough to destroy a pump similar to the dam in Michigan that ended up killing multiple people. Our infrastructure bills in this country are laughable. And it's just further proof that these companies, these entities, these Republican states don't care. And you're probably wondering, what states are next? What states should we be looking at? Well, you should definitely be looking at Republican states. And the 49th and 48th worst states, respectively, is going to be Louisiana and Alabama. So next time you're thinking about major disasters and tragedies striking, that's probably where it's going to happen. But more importantly, let's stop trying to have these conversations about what we should do after, and let's get proactive. There's no reason why in the greatest country in the world, self-proclaimed, drinking water is an issue. And before drinking water was an issue, literally just getting clean water to brush your teeth with was an issue. Back in January, they've been boiling their water since January. It's crazy. Crazy.